The Make in India initiative has yielded positive results. The import of toys is down by 70% in the last 3 years. Exports have jumped by over 61% over the same period. So what's behind the rebranding of the Indian toy story? That's what we are going to talk about on the program today. Hello and welcome. I'm Tina Jha, and I'm pleased to welcome on this edition of Perspective 3 eminent panelists joining us virtually on the program. Mr. Anil Agarwal, Additional Secretary, DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. Pleasure to also welcome Mr. Amitabh Kharbanda. He's Director, Sunlord Apparels Manufacturer Company Private Limited. Thank you and welcome to Sansad TV, Mr. Kharbanda, and Dr. S.P. Sharma, Chief Economist and Director of Research, PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for your time, Mr. Sharma. Welcome to Sansad TV. Mr. Agarwal, coming to you for your remark first. It's been a big turnaround for the Indian toy industry. Help us and our viewers understand, from being toy importers to now becoming toy exporters, how has this transformation been?
You know, the focus on the toy industry has been catching the ministry's attention for quite some time. This exercise started in 2019, when we got a mystery shopping conducted on the quality of toys that are available in the Indian market. And the results were very, very surprising. So the results that the mystery shopping exercise threw was that 30% of plastic toys failed in pellets, in heavy metals. 85% of plastic toys failed in physical and mechanical properties. And you will be more surprised to know that 45% of the toys, 45% of the soft toys failed in pallets. Now, this was kind of an alarm for us. And the government started taking a series of steps. So the first step that was taken was, it was ordered that all the toys that are being imported into the country will have to be compulsorily tested at the shores for compliance with BIS standards that we already had. But since these standards were voluntary, they were not being followed very rigorously. Then, over a period of time, we increased the basic custom duty on imports of toys from 20% to 60%. Then, what is called as making the standards compulsory. So we issued a quality control order on toys, and that was enforced, which meant that no toy could be sold in the Indian market which does not conform to the safety standards as laid down by our own Indian standards. And these standards are essentially mean that when a child plays with a toy, it should not have rough edges, it should not have sharp corners, it should not have any chemicals, harmful chemicals, when the child takes the toy into her or his mouth. These efforts, when Honorable Prime Minister in his Mann Ki Baat address in August 2020 focused on rebranding the Indian toy story, his focus has been that Indian toys, the toys that are available in Indian market, must be designed based on our own history, our own culture, our own value system. These toys must be used as learning resources for children, and it needs to be integrated into the academic curricula of the schools. Starting from Honorable Prime Minister's instructions, we have drafted what is called as a National Action Plan for Toys, where 15 different ministries of Government of India are functioning to provide different impetus to designing, innovating, entrepreneurship, manufacturing of toys across the country. The focus is on designing toys based on our own history, civilization, culture, about innovating, about supporting entrepreneurship, developing toy clusters across the country. And now toys has become a national priority. And what we have seen over the last 2 years is that many state governments have started coming up with state specific policies to promote manufacturing of toys within their own states. And there is a very healthy competition that is going on for attracting investments into manufacturing.
Certainly, and I'll come back to the investment part a little later, but let me bring in Mr. Kharbanda into the discussion. A host of interventions, of course, about which Mr. Agarwal has pointed out, and they have led to this positive outcome about which we are talking today. But if we look at these government interventions, Mr. Kharbanda, which among them has been the most beneficial for the manufacturers, particularly supporting their growth in the last couple of years?
The QCO that was implemented from 1st of January 2021, that was the most important step. And I think that was a wake-up call for our industry that we have to become self-sufficient and we have to stop the import of toys. And with that, we were able to ramp up our manufacturing, ramp up our product range, and do our own innovation to bring in a host of new products which were earlier all being imported, which people thought was not possible to get from India. They were now being manufactured in India. So the QCO was the biggest step in this direction.
Okay.
And also the clarion call given by the Prime Minister in the Mann Ki Baat, that was our Toy Association took it to heart and made all efforts that all our manufacturer friends ramp up our capacity and try and make the Prime Minister's dream come true.
Okay, Dr. Sharma, what according to you have been the other factors that have driven the growth? A lot has also been attributed to the industry and the government support, the collaboration that they have actually undergone in making this Atmanirbhar initiative a success, particularly when it concerns the toy making industry. So tell us about these efforts. How have they boosted the Make in India campaign in the country?
Yes, I think the first step and the first reason is the clarion call given by our Honorable Prime Minister that we have to develop our own capacities, indigenous production. That's why the now industry is very, very confident in so many products, not only in the toy, but in so many segments of the Indian economy, which we largely import also. And second is the ease of doing business and facilitation provided by the government and hand holding. That is the most important ingredient, one of the most important ingredient that the industry is now becoming more and more competitive not in the domestic market, but also in the international market. Like the imports are now decelerating. That is the competitiveness of the Indian industry, that they are able to supply at domestic level. They are able to fulfill the demand, emerging demand in toy segment. And also now we are becoming prominent in the global market with more and more growth in the exports. So that is reflected that we are competitive in the domestic and as well as in the international market. Second factor is the ease of doing business and facilitation by the government. And third, I would say the innovation, the innovative mind of the Indian industry, that now they are exploring themselves. They are now moving ahead. This is not only happening in particular toy industry, but also in so many segments of the Indian economy. Like we posted $422 billion last year in 21-22. That was the historic growth of the exports. And going forward, we have a lot of projections and a lot of aspirations that we will post $1 trillion merchandise exports by 2030. So overall, I believe this is a collaborative effort of the government, industry, and the policy environment that is now becoming more and more prominent and promising for the Indian industry. And we have a lot of aspirations to move forward with more and more growth in sectors, promising sectors such as toy and other related sectors. Like we have various promising growth parameters in the other labor-intensive exports also, because we have a lot of manpower and workforce to produce at competitive rates. But we
Absolutely. A
have
lot of
to think
untapped
possibility.
potential that the Prime Minister has often spoken about, and we seem to be in the right direction because of the collaborative efforts that you've spoken about. But Mr. Agarwal, historically, if we look at the toy making industry, India has had a rich legacy in this particular area. In fact, Indian toys date back to 5,000 years. Our domestic demand for toys is immensely huge. But if we look at the data, until recently, 80% of our toys have been coming in from China. So if I could, try and understand from you, what have been the barriers, the impediments that have actually held back India until recently from making it huge in this sector, in which we seem to be having huge potential and which we have begun to tap only now?
See, there are a number of traditional toy clusters that we have. Artisans, handicraftsmen. They are all very small players. All this is done by hand, manually. And so the capacities to manufacture on a scale that is needed to fulfill the needs of this huge Indian population are not there. Then, there are questions of financing. There are also questions of packaging and marketing. Now, these are the kind of questions that we are now trying to address so that our traditional artisans, handicraftsmen, GI products will also get an opportunity of getting onto the toys market. One of the major concessions that we have given in the quality control order is the exemption of all the handicrafts and artisans from the application of the quality control order. And that is extremely critical because, you cannot expect the similar standards to be applicable by, to be met by the local artisans. However, we are doing a lot of capacity building for them to be able to come up to the standards for manufacturing of the compliant toys and safe toys. The second thing is about, when there was free imports coming in, a whole lot of imports were coming in from a particular country. And as we have seen, they were not of the quality that was acceptable to us. Mm-hmm. As I said, only 33% of the toys in 2019 were found to be safe for children to play. And now, coming on over a period of 3 years, with the measures of quality control, capacity building, standards, now, a recent survey says that 86% of our toys are now safe and they are compliant with the safety standards. Now, over a period of this time, because of the ban on imports and the efforts taken by Honorable Prime Minister himself, there is a huge market development that has been done, not just by government efforts, but also by the industry. And it has given tremendous opportunity to fill the vacuum that has been created because of, stoppage of imports, cheap imports from other countries. And then if you ask the industry, our industry is competitive when it comes to production costs at that scale. However, because of certain distortions in trade practices, they were not able to compete in global markets. Now, if you ask the industry, they are actually looking at, taking benefits of the free trade agreements that we have signed with UAE, with Australia, and the Toy Biz, the exhibition that we had over the last 4 days at Pragati Maidan is a testimony to global buyers coming in to buy from Indian industry and Indian toy makers.
Okay, but Mr. Sharma, so far, so good. It's an industry that is growing exponentially and we are seeing the results. But despite low capital investment needs comparatively to other sectors, why don't we see major corporates, foray into this particular industry? This has tremendous potential. It's been reiterated time and again by the Prime Minister. A clarion call was given to rebrand the industry. But we don't see that kind of interest in the toy making industry by the supposedly larger players in the market.
I would like to mention that the MSMEs are now the major growth driver of Indian economy, and I would like to mention that the growth of the MSME businesses is higher than the growth of the large conglomerates. That is the reason that MSMEs are becoming more and more prominent, and they are able to adopt change very rapidly during the last 5-6 years since the start of Make in India and ease of doing business for the industry. That is happening majorly for the MSME sector, because large conglomerates are always very much connected with the global markets. But now the MSMEs are also connecting with the global supply chains with more and more innovation and more joint ventures with the competitive partners. So that's why I believe the growth of MSMEs, particularly in segments such as toy industry and the textile industry, which is also fragmented, and one more, that food processing is also becoming more and more competitive. If you observe that we exported more than $50 billion of agri and food exports last year. So that industry is also becoming very, very promising and prominent in the export segment, which is a great figure during the pandemic period, difficult period, that we were able to boost more than $50 billion exports in the last 21-22. So going forward, I believe the facilitation to the MSME sector will be very, very crucial in the coming times also, as they want to grow and they want facilitation also, and a great handholding from the government, which is now very much prominent by the government. They are very interactive with the MSME sector, and they call various interactive sessions and meetings to check their issues related to the compliances and the ease of doing business. I think the trajectory of the businesses in the MSME sector, with the facilitation of the government and more interactions, will be fruitful in the coming times to post much higher promising growth in this sector, and particularly the sectors such as toy and other related sectors, which
absolutely.
are
And when our endeavor is to become the global hub, in this particular sector as well, Mr. Kharbanda, one area of concern that's often cited, and when it comes to toy making, is that tooling. This is one area where it's often said by experts that we have to evolve significantly if we are to emerge, among the top countries, the top manufacturers. What are the concerns as far as tooling is concerned in India, in terms of costs and also in terms of its impact on design and development?
Tooling plays a very major part in the plastic toy industry. And each toy has, on an average, a normal plastic toy, on an average, has about 40 to 50 components. And each of the components requires a specific mold to be made. Now, the capacities that are available for tooling in India are actually much below the requirements and the capacity that is required by the industry. That is why a lot of the industry actually gets the tooling made outside India. Even the large conglomerates and the large toy manufacturers, they also get approximately 30% of their tooling done outside India. So this is an area where the government intervention is required. The suggested PLI scheme includes tooling as investment, and if we get the PLI scheme, then the tooling, the advantage on getting PLI and tooling will be huge. The setting up of more in-house tooling facilities will also take place once the PLI scheme is done, and this is what we are really hoping for from the industry. The other aspect which is hampering the growth is the supply chain issues that we have. These days, a lot of toys have electronic components in them, and the sourcing of these electronic components is very difficult in India. We have to import a lot of these components.
Okay. So, Mr. Agarwal, that's an important aspect. If we are still importing several of these important components from a particular country, which is the undisputed leader in the toy market, what are the efforts that we are undertaking now to reduce dependence so that such components can be manufactured indigenously?
See, we are cognizant of this issue. There are certain critical components in all kinds of toys that are not manufactured in India. Now, whether you take electronic toys, whether you take soft toys, so, the cloth that is being manufactured is not available. domestically. Now, when you talk of global value chains, this kind of a concept will always be there. You may not aspire for 100% domestic manufacturing, but the most efficient manufacturing will happen. And if there is 5 to 10% import component in an overall toy, I think that should be acceptable for the time being. Now, one of the issues is about electronic components. We have a huge talent base, and we are looking at how we can utilize that huge talent base in India to design those components which are most frequently imported, because we believe that it is possible to design those components in India and then produce them at scale. We have had discussions, and very, very positive discussions. There are some manufacturers who have also developed their own components which are substituting the import. So it is not that everybody needs to import. There are people who have already used substitutes, and there are efforts for designing those substitutes locally also.
Okay, so that was about, the impediments that we continue to face and the efforts that are being undertaken to overcome them. But Mr. Agarwal, if we talk about the future trends, STEM-based toys and the connected toys, especially in this age of connected world, where Internet of Things is something which is very, very crucial. How are we faring on these two aspects, and particularly the connected toys, because they not only enhance learning and make learning fun for the children, they're also particularly helpful for the parents to track the whereabouts of the children. So the safety aspect is also taken care of. So particularly on these aspects, how does India fare?
See, we are very good in terms of talent base, and now it is up to the industry to design connected toys and apply them to the markets. We have seen the industry adapt to localization of remote control toys. Many of those toys are also using IoT devices. And when you start using IoT devices, there are Indian manufacturers who have now developed toys connected with smartphones. So what you've said, that trend is already visible into the Indian market. And I hope, because the market requirement will drive the industry towards more and more innovation and more production of such toys.
Okay.
We absolutely have no doubt that we have the capability and the entrepreneurship to develop such toys.
Certainly, we have the capability, the potential, in which we are beginning to tap now. The results are for all of us to see. Dr. Sharma, one last comment from you on the future of toy making industry in India, which should not be, a factor for the larger growth of this sector, but which also induces the value of traditional toys. So basically balancing between modern technology, our rich legacy, and innovation at the same time.
Yes, innovation will be a most crucial factor for the growth of the industry. And I would like to mention that our growth, we are ahead of the global growth curve. Global growth was in the toy industry, if I go by the calendar year, in 2021 was 27%, and we grew at the rate of 37%. So we are ahead of the global growth in the toy industry. And I would like to mention that in HS code 9503, tricycles, scooters, pedal cars, and similar wheeled toys, we are growing at the rate of 35% every year, barring few years of the difficult pandemic coronavirus. But the world grew at the rate of 25%. So in so many segments, we are ahead of the world growth trajectory by more than 10 percentage points. That is a great thing, that we have a lot of potential to move forward with a lot of innovation and zeal of the industry, which is facilitated by the Government of India with so many reforms during the last 3-4 years. During the pandemic year also, government facilitated to the industry, particularly to the MSME industry. So going forward, I think if the great hand-holding continues, we have a lot of promising future in this segment to become more and more lucrative in the global charts.
Absolutely. We could become the global hub in the next few years if this trajectory continues, and if the government's push for domestic manufacturing to, also attract global companies in this particular sector continues. It looks like a, very, very lucrative manufacturing destination, and we are hopeful that we will be able to achieve the endeavor, the objective with which the Prime Minister gave the clarion call for vocal for local. So this number that the exports are only increasing and the imports are coming down is an important and very, very significant landmark, and we only hope to go up and forward from here. So that having been said, I'll have to wind up the discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program today, sharing your thoughts, your views with us and our viewers. Absolute pleasure to have you on the program today. So that's it from us on this edition of Perspective Viewers. Thank you to you as well for your time. See you again same time tomorrow now with another topic and a brand new set of panelists. Until then, take care of yourselves and keep watching Sunset.